Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
Nations are defined by the people who live in them. That is the most basic of all observations about the world. China is different from Barbados, and not just because of geography. Austria and Zimbabwe are both landlocked countries in the middle of large continents, but they are not the same. That's because their populations are different. If you have a country brimming with people who work hard, believe in Christianity and Western standards of fairness, and are willing, therefore, to settle their differences without violence, you will likely have a peaceful, prosperous nation. You will have Sweden 50 years ago, before millions of non-Swedes arrived. If, by contrast, you have a nation full of people, however friendly and cheerful they may be, who don't believe in any of that, who embrace tribalism rather than universal principles of justice, who think 40 hours a week is too much for a man to work, and who, for whatever reason, have low impulse control, then you will get a place like Congo, a country that has remained in a state of perpetual civil war since before most Americans were born. It's that simple. There's a reason the German sections of southern Brazil are affluent and orderly, while Amazonia is not. It's because of the people. This is obvious. No honest person denies it or has ever denied it. But in this moment of national madness that has gripped the United States, our leaders are pretending that none of it is true, although, of course, they know perfectly well that it is true. The result is a country, our country, that is changing faster than it ever has, but not through democratic means. Instead, by force, through waves of mass immigration that not a single American voted for. What's happening is a crime. It violates both federal law and the core precept of democracy, which is that citizens get to govern their own countries. This is election rigging on a mass scale, and it's fueled by anti-white racial hostility. That is not a guess. The people doing it say so out loud. They brag about it. They are criminals. They must be punished for what they have done. In the meantime, it's worth knowing exactly what they are doing. This was the scene at the so-called border at El Paso, Texas the other day.
Hello. This is Matt Truman. Thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for sharing with a friend. That was Tucker Carlson over on X. That was his monologue for tonight. If you want to go watch the rest of that episode, I encourage you to. It's always insightful and interesting to listen. You don't have to agree. I don't always agree with his commentary, but it's something worth listening to, I think. Folks, our world is in great turmoil, isn't it? We've seen a lot. Russia, Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Armenia, now Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Will it be Hezbollah, Lebanon, Iran, Syria? Just today, I'm recording this on 10/12, which is Thursday. Just today, Israel bombed the airports in Syria. A lot of things are happening. What side do we take? That's, as Americans, as Christians, right? What side do we take? We always take the side of God. Okay? And and what Christians believe in mostly is peace. We believe in defense, but we believe in peace. And that, I think, is a stark contrast to what we see around the world today.
It's been a few days now. I still haven't weighed in on Israel, Palestine. I honestly don't know who to post. Usually it's easy. BLM, bang. Ukraine, bang. COVID, bang. Hey, did you do your Israel, Palestine post yet? I've never missed a stand. So who'd you go with? I look at my phone, I see a lot of Republicans supporting Israel. So I go, maybe stay away from that. Then I see a lot of the people we've been calling Nazis supporting Palestine. But then get this, the people that we've been calling them Nazis with are happy Israel's getting attacked. Riddle me that. But there really is no easy answer here. Did you do your Israel, Palestine post yet?
No.
What does your manager think of that?
I'm retired.
Oh, you don't have representation right now? Obviously, I was at the front lines of getting mad at Kanye West when he was doing the anti-Semitism stuff. Everyone was thanking me for standing up for the Jewish community. So naturally, I'm seeing this happen. I go, okay, we're back with the Jews again. I see Kylie Jenner post for Israel. I think, okay, the word's in. Then boom, she's getting killed on every angle, so it's not Israel. So I start doing a bit more research. I'm seeing queers for Palestine. And generally, you want to be on the side of the queers. If you look at the things, you're not going to get in trouble if you go with what the queers are saying. Then Mia Khalifa, who we obviously support, is posting with the queers. And she's getting fired from her job. The whole reason I'm posting this is to get in better standing with my job. And by the way, I started to see that your silence is noted post popping up, so we're running out of fucking time here. If you had to pick, who would you say?
I would stay out of it, like I told you.
But if you kind of have to choose, which is sort of what a situation I feel like I find myself in. But you don't understand, I gotta post to support one of them. I know.
With everything going on, that is pure comedy. It's good to laugh in hard times. I think it is. Folks, I've been to war and we joked around. Even after almost dying, we still joke. Okay? It's important to joke. That was funny. But let's get serious for a minute. So tomorrow, or today, whenever you're listening to it, is supposed to be a day of jihad called on by the former Hamas leader. His name's Khalid Mashal. He's calling for protests and jihad and a number of things. And I saw an interview, and I'm going to play it for you, where there was a gentleman, a Christian, talking to a Muslim kid. And this was their exchange.
You're a liar. I want to trust you and I have to hate you as well.
So the point is you won't have a conversation with me because I'm a Christian.
No, I won't believe anything you say because you're a liar. And you're a Christian as well. I hate you for the sake of Allah.
You hate me for the sake of Allah.
I hate you for the sake of Allah.
All right.
I hate you for the sake of Allah. Every Christian, I hate you all for the sake of Allah. Any Jew, any Christian, I hate you all for the sake of Allah.
He hates me for the sake of Allah.
You hate these and the other.
Would you kill me if you get a chance?
If we're at war, I will chop your head off. Yeah, Allah guides you. If we're fighting in war, I'm not going to.
For the sake of Allah, he would chop our heads off. So there's that. I think an important piece of all this is what's caught in the middle, and that's kids. Kids that would not know any of this had they just, you take a bunch of Christian kids, Jewish kids, Muslim kids, Sikh kids, or whatever. You throw them on a playground. They're going to play with each other. They're not going to care. The Muslim kids would probably join up with the Jewish and Christian kids and vice versa, and they would all form their own little friendships. They're friend groups, as the kids say these days. Isn't this all interesting? The kids are caught in the middle, and they're dying because you have a bunch of adults who don't know how to live with each other peaceably. That's what it all boils down to. I don't believe God wants us killing each other. I do believe that there's a commandment for that. Maybe the first one, thou shalt not kill. But there were atrocities on October 7th. And that's what we're all dealing with now. There's going to be more atrocities throughout the world. This has sparked something throughout the world. Russia and Ukraine still going on. There's going to be atrocities there as well. The death and destruction is not something that I'm for at all. I do believe in defending oneself. I am a Second Amendment advocate. And I will defend myself, just as I hope you would defend yourself defensively. I'm not an offensive attacker. I think that's where we all should be. And that guy joking earlier was talking about, who do we pick? And it pokes fun at all the people online who want to be influencers and pick sides and do this and do that. But it also has an important message. It's like, who do we need to choose a side, or should we just be praying for peace? I think we should just be praying for peace. That's me personally. I'm going to go to this report by Greg Reese. You guys know I play Greg Reese on here quite a bit. Very talented video producer, maker, and very enlightening, extremely entertaining. And here it is.
The infamous Albert Pike letter to Mazzini, known as the Illuminati Plan for 3 World Wars, was allegedly written by Albert Pike in 1871. The letter outlines a plan to foment 3 world wars in an attempt to take over the world. It is claimed that the letter was on display in the British Museum Library until 1977, but the British Museum denies this claim. Some suggest that the use of the word Nazism in 1871 proves that the letter is a fraud, and others say the same about Zionism. But Zionism existed back then. Zionism was made official in the late 1800s as a non-religious nationalist movement, arguing that the Bible was proof that Jews had a lawful claim to the land of Palestine, an area that was currently inhabited by a population that has lived there relatively peacefully for centuries. Around the alleged writing of this Albert Pike letter, Jews began immigrating to Palestine with the intention of someday creating a state of Israel, which did not happen until 1948, after World War II and the creation of the United Nations. Albert Pike joined the Fraternal Independent Order of Oddfellows in 1840. By 1859, he was elected Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite's Southern Jurisdiction and remained Sovereign Grand Commander for the rest of his life. He was definitely aware of Zionism, and if this Illuminati plan is true, then his use of the word Nazi is plausible. Either way, the letter is worth a read, and the closer we get to the end game, the more accurate this letter appears to be. The Illuminati plan for 3 world wars. The First World War must be brought about in order to overthrow the czars in Russia and make that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. After the war, communism will be used to destroy other governments and weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and political Zionism is strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough to balance Christendom, which would be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islam. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization. And the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Whoever wrote this letter had the vision to see where this is all going. By manipulating our beliefs and emotions, mankind has been herded into these wars like cattle to the slaughter. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
That was a little history lesson in what we're seeing today. All day today, a phrase has been popping into my head. Agenda 2030. Today, we're at the end, moving toward the end of 2023. How do we get there? How do we get to Agenda 2030 in the next few years? What is Agenda 2030, you ask?
2 years ago, Klaus Schwab openly declared that by the year 2030, the World Economic Forum would have full control over humanity. Of course, Schwab tried to frame this as a positive development for the people of the world. In his psychopathic mind, we the people need to be ruled by the globalist elite for our own good. And he's got a plan for us that involves murdering the vast majority of the world population. And for those who survive the mass extinction events, a grim future awaits of eating bugs and crickets, banning meat and dairy, banning private cars, and 15-minute cities that could be more accurately described as open-air prisons. Unfortunately for Schwab, the plan to lock up humanity by the year 2030 is not going to plan. The people of the world are slowly but surely waking up to the truth about his evil agenda, and Schwab is becoming increasingly terrified of being held to account. The global elite are now acting like cornered rats, and it's our job to make sure they don't escape. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join the People's Voice Locals community for uncensored and exclusive news and views. The link is below this video. The World Economic Forum's Agenda 2030 is at risk of failing, according to Klaus Schwab, who has warned his fellow elites that their globalization and depopulation agendas have been exposed, and now must be ramped up if they have any hope of succeeding.
For this reason, what we have seen in the elections in the United States, in the Brexit vote, this anger of people against globalization and against the elites. If you look what's happening in the United States, particularly, you have this anti-system movement. What we are seeing is a revolution against the system. It's dismantling the system, and we see certain elements of this now in the new US administration.
When historians look back on this era, it will be remembered as the time the globalist elite revealed their hand and began to lose grip on power. According to Klaus Schwab's right-hand man, Yuval Noah Harari, the liberal rules-based order that the globalist elite have been working on for decades is suddenly in danger of being dismantled by the people of the world.
When you look at the bigger picture of the world, what you can say about Donald Trump or what he's doing over the last 2 years is one very big and important thing he's doing. He's destroying the US alliance system all over the world. I don't know why he's doing it, but in a very systematic way, they are our friends, let's destroy that. They are our friends, let's alienate them. He's alienating America's friends in North America, Canada and Mexico, in Western Europe, in the Far East, South Korea, Japan. He's in a systematic way, for reasons I cannot fathom. He's destroying the greatest achievement of the US foreign policy for decades and decades to build this alliance, this global alliance system.
And what is the greatest achievement of liberal US foreign policy, according to Harari? Here's a hint. It sounds a lot like the brand of liberal authoritarian fascism pushed by Klaus Schwab from his hideout in the mountains of Switzerland.
We've built the rule-based liberal global order.
Those 5 words should be enough to send a chill down the spine of any self-respecting citizen of the free world. The globalist elites are now more dangerous than ever. They are cornered rats willing to do anything because they can see defeat on the horizon. And all those who called for a new world order are now running scared.
So why do you think Agenda 2030 was running through my brain today? Because all of this that's happening today could, I'm not saying it will, I'm saying could impact Agenda 2030. If we know there's wars and rumors of wars, right? That's a biblical term. We know that there is political strife throughout our country in the United States. We know that the world is sitting on a tipping point. It's going to go one way or the other. Are we going to burn in fire because God said that he was no longer going to flood the earth, and the next time we were going to burn in fire? Is this the sign of the coming of Christ? I mean, all these questions come to mind, and they're just questions. They're just questions, folks. But Agenda 2030, I think, could come out of all of this. I think a global elite could take advantage. Remember, never let a crisis go to waste. These are all crises throughout the world. So could the elites utilize all of this chaos to usher in what they conceive as Agenda 2030, where we live in 15-minute cities and we eat? But I think so. I think that with the economy, have you been to the grocery store, right? The last time I went to the grocery store, I went to buy crackers. They're $5. Crackers. A little box of crackers is like $5. It's ridiculous. I want crackers with my chili. Anyway, I think the elites can usher in what they want, utilizing all these crises around the world in a way that they cancel elections, because we're at war. We need to maintain our focus on that. Hopefully that doesn't happen in the United States. It has happened throughout other countries and other wars, Ukraine being one. I just wanted to put that out there. That term was floating around in my head all day. I was wondering, what are they going to do? And it's strange to live in a world. I used to trust my government. I used to trust what the news had to say. I used to trust all this stuff. But now with everything going on with COVID and the like, you question everything. I'm not creating a conspiracy theory. I'm questioning what is actually happening in the world. I think a lot of people are.
They warned Israel. They had multiple conversations about it. They admitted this. Egyptian buildings in Cairo have raised the Palestinian flag, just like they've done in Iraq, Syria, Iran, Kuwait, and Libya. Also, I found this to be a stunning admission today from Egypt. Egypt's top intelligence officials saying that Israel totally dropped the ball. They ignored huge warning signs that something big was coming from Hamas in Gaza, and they did nothing to stop it. In other words, Egypt says Israel knew this was coming. They warned Israel. They had multiple conversations about it. They admitted this. Israel has arguably the most sophisticated intelligence service in the world, and yet they purposefully didn't do anything to stop it. Egypt says they knew about it. So if that's true, why would they do that? Why would Israel ignore a potential attack?
It is unfathomable to think Israel allowed this to happen. But for just a second, what if they did? I'm not saying they did, because I don't want to believe that they did, because that would be beyond satanic, beyond disgusting. But just for a second, what if they did? To allow them the collateral damage to go after Hamas. That would be some wild stuff, I believe. All right. Let me go back just for a second. I was talking about the children. Now, there's conflicting reports that babies were beheaded in their beds, their cribs. I don't know what to believe, because I'm seeing all different sorts of things, but I'm going to tell you right now. Anyone that does that, they're not doing that for God at all. That is pure satanic. Pure satanic, pure evil. The most evil thing I can think of is that.
Morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, October 11th. I'm Dominic Garcia.
And I'm Dina Kupfer, and we'll get to all of that in just a moment. But our top story this morning, there are new and disturbing details on the deadly surprise Hamas attack on Israel 5 days ago. Israeli military and civilian officials have now confirmed to CBS News that children were among the victims beheaded in the Hamas attack on one community.
More than 2,000 people have died since that fighting began, including at least 14 Americans. Let's go to Naomi Ruckham joining us with the latest on the conflict this morning. Naomi, good morning.
Dominic and Dina, good morning. Hamas has taken more than 100 people hostage, and according to Israeli officials, some of them are American. Hamas has said it will not negotiate for their release while Gaza is still under fire. And that fire is ramping up with 450 airstrikes in the last 24 hours.
Israel conducted hundreds of airstrikes on suspected Hamas targets late last night into this morning. Attempts by Hamas to launch rockets into Israel were mostly intercepted by Iron Dome defense systems. Military officials say dozens of Israeli battalions have been stationed near Gaza in preparation for a possible ground assault. Israel is also sending tanks to its border with Lebanon.
We've never seen such savagery in the history of the state.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Joe Biden discussed U.S. support yesterday.
We stand with Israel, and we will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack.
The first U.S. shipment of weapons has already arrived in Israel, and defense officials say a small group of U.S. Special Forces are on the ground there to help with planning and intelligence.
That was a brief news story out of Sacramento, California, and they were talking about what we just discussed, was the beheading of babies. I can't, I grieve for the adults who have to suffer war, who aren't combatants, who are just civilians trying to live their everyday life. I grieve for them. But when it comes to children, folks, there's no more innocence than a child. And there's the most innocent is a helpless baby laying in a crib that can't defend itself. That's evil, folks. If that report is true, which I wouldn't doubt it. I honestly would not doubt that. And there's been pictures put on the internet, but then there's been people debunking these pictures, some saying it's AI. I don't know. But I know there are people in this world that do harm children. I know there's that sickness, that depravity, that evil lurking throughout our world. I don't know. I made cheeseburgers tonight and baked beans and French fries. And before I ate, I prayed for this country. I prayed for Israel. I prayed for the innocents in Israel. I prayed for the innocents in Palestine. I prayed for the innocents of Ukraine and Russia. And I prayed for our country, and I prayed for the world, and I just asked God to please bring peace on earth. Jesus, come back. I don't know what else to say. I'm sad, depressed, angry, confused, like many of you are. You feel helpless at this point. And all we have is defend yourselves. Raise your children up, and it's like, good night. What are we leaving, or what type of world are we leaving our kids? Everything's a fight. Everything's an argument. There's no more discussion. There's no more, okay, I don't get what I want. You don't get what you want. Compromise. There's none of that anymore. You can't compromise. I don't know. I don't want to get to a point where we have to fight. I don't want that. I've been there. War sucks. Lots of bad things happen. Well, in the United States, we're in the middle of a presidential primary season. The Republicans have a stacked field. Nobody can enter into the Democratic field and actually have a chance because look around the United States. Everything's controlled, especially with the Democrats. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could not even get a debate. He couldn't even get any traction with the Democrats because, he's a conspiracy theorist. Now this, what's his name? Young Turks guy, whatever his name is. I don't watch that show. He comically entered the Democrat race as a Democrat, go figure, and he's not going to get any traction either. They're not going to let you debate Joe Biden. They're not going to let anybody get in the middle of that. I don't even think Joe Biden's going to make it to the election. They're going to promote somebody up in the channel because it's all controlled. Folks, the United States is dead. The United States as we knew it is gone. It could come back, but you have to fight for it. I don't know if anybody wants to fight for it. We started with Tucker. Maybe we'll end with a little Tucker. Vivek Ramaswamy is one of the Republican candidates, and he had this to say about the Israel-Hamas situation.
It is wrong what happened to Israel, and I call that out as a human being and as somebody who's on a belief of some people are on the right side and the wrong side of a conflict, I think that is far clearer here than it is, for example, in the Russia-Ukraine conflict or other areas where people have baked that cake. But the selective nature of ignoring certain other conflicts, well, even more importantly, ignoring the interests of the U.S. right here at home, is what irritates the heck out of me, out of the politicians in both parties. And it is shameful. And I think that there are, frankly, financial and corrupting influences that lead them exactly to speak the way they do. That's just the hard truth.
He certainly makes a damn fine point, don't you think? We tend to ignore, like we're shipping weapons all over the world. We leave billions of weapons behind in enemy territory, in the hands of our enemies, only to have to fight again. Tanks, helicopters, Humvees, MATVs, you name it, we left it. Weapons galore, AR or M4s, everything. What a world we live in, folks. Okay, I will leave you with this. My favorite Bible verse, the one that I try to live by every day. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the sinful nature with its passions and desires. Galatians 5:22 through 23. That's it for me tonight, folks. I'll see you next Friday. Last Friday we did a video podcast because I had trouble getting on the internet. I'm going to upload that. That's 165. This is podcast 166. So in the meantime, we'll see you on 167, God willing.
Look, little girl, can we postpone this for another day? It's unsettling having you just sit there.
But my report's due tomorrow.
What's it on?
Why government matters.
Really? It's never too early to learn that the government is a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore, chapped nipples. I'm gonna need a different metaphor to give this 9-year-old. What's your name, ma'am?
Lauren Burkus.
Lauren. My name is Ron Swanson, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the miserable, screwed-up world of local government.
You have mustard in your mustache.
Don't sass me, Burkus. Let's get started. Life, liberty, and property. It's John Locke. This is your lunch. Now, you should be able to do whatever you want to with this, right? If you want to eat all of it, great. If you want to throw it away in the garbage, that's your prerogative. But here I come, the government, and I get to take 40% of your lunch. And that, Lauren, is how taxes work.
But that's not fair.
You're learning. Uh-oh. Capital gains tax. And that, Lauren, is how FDR ruined this country.
Lauren, ready to head back?
Well, I guess it's time for you to head home. I've really enjoyed talking with you. You are, and this is not a joke, much smarter than most of the people who work in this building.
I like talking with you too, Mr. Swanson.
Ron, hang on, I have something for you. This is a Claymore landmine. Use that to protect your property.
Thanks, Ron.
You got it.
Are you Ron Swanson?
I am.
Okay, what exactly did you teach my daughter?
Oh, you must be Mrs. Burkus.
Lauren was supposed to do a paper on why government matters. This is what she wrote.
It doesn't. Well said.
Is this a joke?
No, ma'am. I legitimately believe that. I'm a libertarian.
Oh, that's nice. Well, she is a fourth grader. And fourth graders aren't supposed to have their heads crammed full of weird ideas. They're supposed to do cute reports and get gold stars.
I'm very sorry. I was only...
And you ate her lunch? And you gave her a landmine? Really?
Well, it seemed appropriate at the time.
How?